The Walking Dead might have been super popular when it came out, but people only have negative things to say about it now. Where did the show go wrong? And will the writers try to fix their mistakes? Here's why fans hate The Walking Dead World Beyond. What was the biggest blunder? One of the biggest blunders the show made recently was when Felix had found Iris after she had killed the CRM soldier at the end of an episode. In the next episode, both Felix and Iris see lights off in the distance and try to run away. But since the zombies had spotted them, they started coming towards them. But instead of just leaving the zombies for the CRM searchers to deal with, they decide to fight them. Felix also decides to catch each zombie as they go down so that the CRM searchers won't hear them. As you can probably tell, it was a stupid move and ended up in a huge mess. He fights 2 zombies simultaneously, but he's also lowering the first one to the ground as he drops his knife. So this is when our main character has his big brain moment and he decides to grab the zombie around its waist and back it up against a tree. After this, he tells Iris, who is standing 20 feet away in the dark, to take a headshot. You might already know this, but Felix's head is 3 inches away from the zombies, so Iris needs to get a headshot to kill the thing. She's a pretty good shot at a distance in the dark, but clearly he thinks this is the only way to kill the zombie. What went wrong? As you can probably tell, this wasn't the smartest thing to do. This is also not how to behave in order to survive a zombie apocalypse. And the worst part is that Iris is not an experienced survivor, so she clearly hasn't trained for hours with a crossbow, and she could have probably killed him with a wrong shot. But it seems like the writers hadn't planned out Felix's death that day, and the pair got away unscathed. People hated the whole scene, and some people even took to the social media to analyze it. Some believe that if the show's writers had any handle on reality whatsoever, they could have tried to produce a better scene. It wasn't that hard to make Iris choose a sensible way to kill a zombie. She could have literally just picked up the knife and used that to defend herself. Why else do fans hate this show? Even though Iris's example is enough to understand why some people just hate this show, you'll be surprised to know that this wasn't even close to the most ridiculous things featured on this show. Did you know that the CRM killed 100,000 people living in Omaha and the campus colony? And the only reason they did this was because they wanted Hope. And if you think that's absurd, you'll probably be even more shocked to find out that Hope was already on her way to the CRM, which makes this mass killing completely unnecessary in the show. But apparently the show is now full of unnecessary things. They could have literally tried asking her if she'd like to help and offered her a chance to see her father rather than manipulating her and sending her out on a dangerous suicide expedition across the whole country. Plus, they also killed everyone she ever knew for no reason. Nothing seems to make sense in this show anymore. Fans of the show have also pointed out that the CRM in the show is supposed to be an intelligent organization, but ends up doing the dumbest things. For example, they literally murdered tens of thousands of people who could have contributed to the war effort. It's also important to note that these people posed zero threat to the CRM. A lot of these people were also highly educated and possessed important skills that the CRM could have exploited for their own gains. These loopholes make the show almost unbearably annoying to watch for some people sometimes. What's wrong with Iris? Iris might have more fans than others, but a lot of people don't like her unwarranted confidence. Even though she is a confident person by nature, she just seems like the typical overachieving student who seems to just do everything right. It's like she has an unrealistic personality. She's also super sweet and kind, so it's difficult to pinpoint something not to like about her. Ironically, this makes her a difficult character to like. Her overconfidence is perhaps the only thing wrong with her. An example is when she left her safe and cozy home and tried to survive in the wild. There is nothing wrong with being confident, but she seems far too confident for someone who has rarely ever seen or killed a dangerous zombie. What's wrong with HUCK? Some people who frequently watch the show feel that there's something inherently annoying about the way HUCK carries herself. This includes the particular stride that she has. It literally feels like she's walking with a massive chip on her shoulder. Even her facial expressions are a little confusing because it seems that she's trying really hard to look tough when she's really just not. And her character isn't even complex when it has so much potential. But people usually feel bad for HUCK because it seems as she had a really tough life. It also seems like she was once very close to death given the massive scar on her face. What's frustrating is that even though she looks tough, no one has ever seen her prove herself in any type of battle against zombies just yet. So she probably needs to tone down the overly emphasized reactions and try to be a more relatable character. What's wrong with SILAS? SILAS seems like the typically awkward teenage boy who doesn't fit in with the popular crowd. He also can't really relate to other students, and a lot of them find him weird. It's sad that the other characters aren't shown having a substantial relationship with him. The other kids don't even bother trying to get to know him, and it gets worse when some students continuously make fun of him. But perhaps what makes him such a great character is that deep down, Silas is a kind, caring person who just wants love and acceptance from the people around him. But even though he seems like the perfect good boy, Silas has a really bad temper. An example is when we see flashbacks of a previous incident where he beat someone. Nobody knows if he beat the person to death or not. Silas could very well be a murderer, and people have no idea. Then there's also the time he went black and started beating a zombie to a pulp, and he realized the consequences of his actions much later. So it's clear that in order to be more likable, Silas needs to get his anger issues under control. What's wrong with Hope? Hope is a teen, and it's expected for teenage girls to have a lot of angst, so it's no wonder she's a little rebellious. Hope also comes from a tough family where she always felt overshadowed by her perfect sister's reputation. So to get the attention she wanted, Hope always seemed to cause trouble around her. Another rebellious teen from the Walking Dead franchise, Enid, also caused a lot of trouble, which is why Hope often reminds people of her. And even though a little bit of angst is okay, Hope sometimes takes it too far. Examples include when she put herself in danger one too many times, even though she didn't have the skills or the experience. Hope just needs to chill. Dr. Leopold and his obsession with work. Another thing that fans absolutely hate about this show is how inconsistent Dr. Leopold's presence is. Even though he is the adoptive father to both Hope and Iris, we haven't really met him yet. He seems like an absent dad and isn't a great character either. Also, he has a terrible love life because he's in love with someone who constantly manipulates things for her own benefit. Even in the short flashback scenes that aired a while ago, it seems that Dr. Leopold is very focused on his work and doesn't care much about the kids. He might love them both deeply, but he is so focused on his work that he was completely ready to leave them and go work with the Civic Republic. And even though his work is supposedly important because he's trying to find a cure for the zombie virus, he's still a terrible dad. He abandoned his girls after they had already lost their mother, even though he knew that he would not be allowed to have any contact with them. BARCA'S habit of speaking out. If you've missed him, BARCA is the Civil Republic soldier who went to visit Elizabeth Kublek in her apartment. This happened after they all killed everyone present inside the campus just to express his anger and make a point about what had just gone down. He clearly didn't think it was the right move and also didn't seem to understand why it had to be done. But even though it was admirable that BARCA was willing to speak out, it's obvious that he should have been smart enough to figure out another approach. He probably knew that Elizabeth wouldn't have agreed with him. That was just too naive. Do you like the current Walking Dead characters? And do you think the show will be able to solve all their problems? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.